we're going to be talking about employee appreciation. And why is that such good timing? Is because employee appreciation is right around the corner. And for those of you who don't know it, Dr. Bob is in fact the founder of this day, which is, I think, pretty darn cool. I see all over the web, all over LinkedIn, people talking about Employee Appreciation Day. What should we do? We have none other than Dr. Bob, who's both the founder of said day, but also he has some great answers on how to recognize and reward staff.
And the one thing we're doing different, this is the third time that we've done this, that the previous two we did on the day.
Yeah,
which is Friday the 4th this year. And people said, this would have been really helpful if we had it, a week or two before. And so we moved it up for that reason.
Awesome. And I'd invite people, as always, as questions pop up, and I'm sure there's going to be questions, feel free to enter the questions into the chat window or use the Q&A window. Happy to, and we'll be addressing those at the end. And with that, why don't we jump into it? And I'd love to introduce Dr. Bob for those of you who do not know him. Dr. Bob is considered the world's leading authority on employee recognition and engagement. He sold over 5 million books on management, employee motivation, and engagement. On top of that, he is the president of Nelson Motivation, a management training and consulting company specializing in helping organizations improve their management practices, programs, and systems. And I already mentioned that he's the founder of Employee Appreciation Day. He created it 27 years ago to celebrate the publication of his book, 1001 Ways to Reward Employees, and to remind employers everywhere about the importance of thanking their employees for the good work they do. The book is now in its 64th printing with over 2 million copies sold and has been translated into 25 languages worldwide. So Dr. Bob, super excited to have you here today, sir, and share your knowledge and wisdom.
Thank you. I've been blessed along the way to have worked with a lot of companies. Here's a few of them that I've assisted on this topic, either presented or consulted with, about trying to be a better culture of recognition, and with a lot of success. So I like to feel that I've made life a little better for a lot of employees across the country and maybe around the world some. And I'm delighted to be able to do that with whoever's on the call now as well. That if you just pick up an idea or two that you can use, all the more powerful. If you decide you want to take it further, you will be getting my latest book, which is, like all my books, are packed with real examples from actual companies and things they're doing. On this book, it's Work Made Fun Gets Done. So how you can make the workplace more fun, which goes hand in hand with recognition, or your own job. How you can make it more fun when you feel down in the dumps or isolated. Has anyone been isolated the last couple of years? What you can do to make that a little bit more fun. So look forward to that. And there I am again. 27 years ago, I can't believe I'm that old, but apparently I am. So.
Well, I'm going to throw in 2 quick tidbits, and it's all over to Dr. Bob. So we will 100% be sharing a copy of today's presentation. And I'm just going to mute myself and go off video. And Dr. Bob, over to you, sir.
And the recording as well. So
yeah,
lots of value here for you. And I've already mentioned the complimentary book, personally delivered to your doorstep or wherever you want it sent. So if you have provided your best mailing address, you will get that. We need the address to send it to you. We're not going to do anything else with the address other than send you the book. But it's not an ebook; it's an actual hold in your hand book. I'm old-fashioned in that regard. But to dig right into it, it's like Appreciation Day in the midst of the Great Resignation. And what's going on with that? Well, there's a lot of talk about the Great Resignation and what it means and where it is. And I want to give you my spin on this because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. The Great Resignation refers to the 38 million U.S. workers that have quit their jobs in 2021. Started last April, and each month it was more people quitting, and they're quitting, but for the most part they're taking other jobs. So it's not just maybe the Great Reshuffle would have been a better wording for this, but there's misconceptions about what's going on. It's not everybody quitting. Most of the turnover is happening at as job switching, and most of it's in the in the industries of hospitality, food service, restaurants, hotels. This is where most of it's going on. 4 times the turnover of any other sector in that level. Even with all that change, though, that sector has still grown 2 million jobs in 2021. So there's still a lot of expansion, even though there's a lot of people shuffling around. And why are they leaving? Well, I think the game has changed with the essential worker, all those people that had to go to work because they're in the food service or dealing directly with the public. They suddenly were taking their life in their hands to go to work. The threat of being infected, and then with the COVID, and so there's higher risk. But also, instead of being applauded for that, for a lot of people, what they saw is irate public that were coming at them because they asked them to nicely put on a mask because it was their company policy. It was all right to run the door. Now all of a sudden, now someone's laying into them and yelling at them, and they want to talk to their boss. And this job isn't worth all that. And so they said, I got to find a different job, and I got to be paid more to do this. So that's what really happened at that level. Recognition can help. You can't fix if someone's underpaid if you're not paying them competitively by just being nice to them. But if you're paying them competitively, it will go a long way to let them know that you value them and the job that they're doing in the challenging times that we're currently in. This is a fact, and I'm gonna lean harder on that as we go. The second group of and they're not really changing jobs that much is the professional services, business services. There's more job burnout going on, that they're not quitting their jobs. They're staying in their jobs for the most part, not everyone, but they're staying, and they're feeling burnt out. They're feeling isolated. They've got Zoom fatigue. They're tired of the whole thing. They want to just forget the last couple of years. And again, they need to be valued and appreciated. And if you're not seeing them because they're at working from home still, you got to reach out to them and check in with them and see how they're doing. And it can't just be shoveling more work at them. It's got to be a personal concern. And so that's part of recognition as well, of valuing them and knowing what they're up against in their life and being empathetic and helping wherever you can. Third category, these are people that are leaving the workforce. And of this 38 million, 5 million of them were people over 65 that have left the workplace and quit their job permanently. And we call that retirement. And they did it sooner than they were planning because a couple things. One, again, this is a category that most people have died. 80% of deaths in the pandemic were in people over 65. So they're at high risk. They didn't want to, risk their lives by going into the office. And then secondly, they'd had their retirement savings have done very well over the last couple of years. And if they had a home, that shot up in value. 80% of across America, 80% of housing has gone up dramatically. In San Diego, where I live, it's in the last year about 25% value that just for being in the same house. So they were able to retire early, that they had enough funds to live comfortably, and maybe they thought about doing something different, and maybe they're going to go volunteer, maybe they're going to start their own company, any number of things, and so that's my read on the Great Resignation. For most of the companies that are in the midst of it, we have moved towards a new reality, the hybrid work environment, where we will have people that will remain working from home or remotely, and now in addition to people coming back to the office. And really, when you think about it, that's 2 workforces. We got to juggle that. And how is it different? How do we keep them all as part of the same team? And just some thoughts on that really quickly is 42%. Actually, this is up to 42 to 71% of the U.S. workforce have been working from home during the pandemic. So depending on what study you look at, there's different percentages there. And 40% of employers have planned or have already announced that they want workers to start returning to the office. And we're in all different it's like a massive experiment. Everyone, no matter what they're doing, if you're in New York City finance, you have to be back to the office. Everyone has to be back, and because that's the way we do work around here, and we need it for the culture, we need it for learning and for advancement opportunities. I don't know about all that, but a lot of other companies are having more flexibility that you got to come back a certain number of days a week, 3 days, 2 days, whatever it might be. And there's a lot of debate, and there will continue to be a lot of debate about this going forward. So what is the right mix, and is it so important that people have to be back in the office? And I'm not so sure it is, because we've been able to prove for a long time we didn't know would virtual work, but we have proved that it does work, and that people are actually as productive, actually more productive, being able to work from home, not even counting the commute time they've saved, that they're not interrupted, they can be more focused depending on the work they've got. If you're on one extreme, some companies have said everyone can keep working from home. Twitter has said that. I gave the other example of New York finance, and maybe in between, like Apple Computer has said, well, we want 3 days a week. You come back 3 days a week, and have a couple days to flexibility of working from home. So it's all over the map. Most employees, well, actually, only 3% of employees have been working at home said they want to go back into the office. 3%. Now 56% have said, yeah, I'd be willing to come back to the office some, but not full time. No, that's done. And so again, we're gonna have it's gonna continue this kind of push and shove between the employee perspective and the work and the company perspective. If you're a company that says, well, this is the way we name the rules, the person has the gold, but makes the rules, and we're saying you got to be back in the office. That's where we have the lease and whatnot. And well, maybe you should sublease. Maybe you should get out of that big building. Maybe you should sell it. And IBM, for example, they saved $3 billion over the pandemic by redoing their leases. They didn't need to have people come back to work. So there's a lot of food for thought. Going forward, it's going to be different. 61% of white collar employees that have been working from home said they want the company to continue to let them work remotely indefinitely. And about half of those, 30%, has said that if they're forced to come back into work, they will quit. And my wife's one of them. She's a virtual employee. Today, she's at the office, first time in months, and a little bit begrudgingly. And she'll give it a try, but if she doesn't like it, she will quit, and she will get another job in a heartbeat. Last time she was job hunting, she got 7 offers. She wasn't even looking. People were approaching her. So she's very good at what she does, and she's done with commuting. So I think most people are. And to go back to a 2-hour commute, in her case, it'd be 45 minutes each way. And the whole time she's going, this is stupid, this is stupid, this is stupid. Why am I, I don't need to be driving right now in the packed with other cars. And it's just common sense. So I think that's going to set in the more reality. And right now she's going with it. And they've got to kind of bribe people at her company that, oh, we're bringing in catered lunch, And last time they did that, I said, nah, that's okay, I'll pass. I don't need a catered lunch. And she's actually happier just being allowed to work, So I think there's a lot of people in that camp. So this is the new reality. And as Sir Richard Branson put it, if you take care of your people, it'll take care of your business. Doesn't matter where they're sitting. Okay, so we got to get over it and be flexible and absolutely do not have decrees. This will happen because you will get pushback, and it will lead to losing people at a time where every person you lose is one more person you got to hire, and it's a tough job market right now at all levels to hire people because there's so much competition. So we have a shortage of skilled labor in our country, and this existed even before the pandemic, made worse by the pandemic, but it's not a shortage of people. It's a shortage of people that have the skills that you need for the jobs that you've got to be successful. So the more skills you have, the harder it is to attract those people because they're in greater demand. It's just a reality. But if we come back to focusing on recognition and appreciation, then it will be less of a problem for you, guaranteed. In fact, in just one research snippet from Merits, they found that if you create a culture of recognition where everyone is acknowledging each other, things that we're talking about for Employee Appreciation Day all through the year, that they found that your employees will be 5 times more likely to feel valued. They'll be 6 times more likely to recommend the company as a great place to work. They'll be 7 times more likely to stay in their job with your company for their career, to stay working for you for their career. 7 times. That's the price of admission on this topic right there. You set up a culture of recognition, it's going to be like a glue for your people are going to want to stay because it's a great place to work and they're always being called out about the good things they're doing individually, as a group, company celebrations, that type of thing. It's not frivolous, it's very real when you make that happen. And 11 times more committed to their job, to their manager, and to the mission of the organization. Again, huge benefits on something that fundamentally doesn't cost any money to do. It's basically a behavior. So I'm a strong advocate of this, and this is what I help companies do, to be a better culture of recognition, which is the #1, by the way, driver of engagement in research by Harvard Business Review and others. So for a stat from Gallup, 67% of employees say their recognition is their top performance motivator. Just telling me thank you for the job I was hired to do. Whew, how hard is that? Come on. And unfortunately, a lot of managers say, well, I'm paying you to do that. I wish I had to thank you as well. You know, pay check should be enough. Maybe it should, but increasingly it's not. You know, there's more going on in anyone's life where if they're not valued for what they're doing with the bulk of their waking hours, they tend to have a wandering eye. And when they hear about a buddy of theirs that's a startup and they're really excited, and another company where their boss just took them out to lunch, and you know, all of a sudden, I need a better place to work. I need, you know, it's the saying is we all go to work for a great company, but we end up leaving a bad manager, a manager that doesn't take this topic as a priority. So the greatest management principle of the world is a simple notion: you get what you reward, what you recognize. What you recognize will be repeated. It's a fact. This goes back to Skinner. You know, we've got hundreds of research studies that say this is a fact. Whatever you notice, whatever you recognize, whatever you call out, you'll get more of. So call out the things that matter, the performance. Don't just do this randomly. Don't just do it because it's, you know, it's Friday, or don't just do it on Employee Appreciation Day. This is a reminder to do it all the time. Okay, if you do that, you will get the behavior, and you will change the dynamics of the job, where people will want to work for you because they consider you a great leader, and it's a great company because we're never too busy to thank people and to celebrate excellence and performance. You know, it's not an afterthought. It's part of what drives our success. So when you get serious about performance, you have to get serious about recognition. It goes hand in hand. Okay, and most every company is serious about performance, you know, the financials and market share and innovation, stuff like that. But it always slays me when I work with the companies that, yes, those are important things to you. Now, what are you recognizing? Well, it's not those things. What are you doing? Those things are what you have to recognize. Recognize the things that are strategic objectives and core values, and more times than not, the things that companies are recognizing are in a different bucket over here that are you know, holiday parties and birthdays and summer picnics. And what are you doing? That's recognizing presence. If you happen to be here, you get to come to the party. You know, it's like. And by the way, the people working from home, they're left out. You know, they don't get to join, you know, the team to go out for lunch because they're in a different time zone. Gosh, well, how are they going to feel? You know, that's where we have to loop them in and make sure you're including them in some way. You can't fly them out to lunch, but maybe you can do something else and I'm going to stop giving you the big picture and wade into the details here on what some of those things could be. But you got to take this topic seriously if performance and holding on to people is important to you. This is the path to make that happen. So what's it look like in that virtual environment? Virtual recognition rewards. The most important thing you can do has zero cost. It's a personal or public praise, simple thanking people for doing what you wanted to do to begin with. And you can do that in person. Ideally, if you have a chance, you could do it. And that could be, face to face, but it could be making a personal call to them, or having your company president call them. Here's what Jerry did. Give him a call if you would, and thank him, from the company, from your perspective. By just doing that, it shows that the president now knows who that person is. Well, that's got a lot of cachet. And if he knows what the person did, and wow, that was incredible, bringing in that account, and we're looking for more of the same from you. Your way to go. I'm so glad you're part of our team. That's worth a lot more than even a larger raise. Because the person's going to impact them immediately, and everyone they tell to, that feeling's going to come back, and you got to mind that because it's very real. So it could be a written note, it could be a card, it could be a letter for the personnel file. There's a lot of people that create a victory file of notes that they've gotten, and when they're having a bad day, they'll take that out and they'll read the positive things that they've gotten over their career, which is a practical strategy. It could be electronically through a recognition platform such as Bucket List Rewards has a great one. It could be electronic gift cards. It could be text, or it could be in public. To the group, to the company, even putting something outside the company. So there's a lot of, originally this popped up when I was doing my doctoral research on this topic, and initially I thought, well, aren't these all the same thing? Isn't praise? Isn't that one big bucket? Praise. And what I realized is it's not one bucket. It's a lot of different buckets. These are each mutually exclusive. It means something different if someone thanks you to your face than if you get a note from them that you could reread and share with your family. It means something different than if your boss stands up in front of the company and says, let me tell you what our team did, and specifically what Tony did to make this come together. It means something very different. And so you got to fire on each of these cylinders to maximize the power of the common sense notion of thanking people. You want to do it as soon as possible. The sooner you reinforce the desired behavior performance, the more likely it will be repeated. In fact, you want to do it from the heart. It's got to be sincere. It can't be mechanical. Part of the sincerity comes from the specifics. Someone did a good job. What's your evidence they did a good job? Share that evidence. Here's what I heard from the client. Here's what I saw in your report. Give them the data that influenced you to come to the conclusion that they did a great job. Don't just walk into your group and say, everyone's doing a great job, keep it up. It kind of feels hollow. And probably everyone isn't doing a great job. A couple of people you probably should have fired, a couple of years ago, and they hang on, everyone else has to cover for them. Okay. Ideally in person, 100% positive, which should be obvious, go without saying, but I learned a lot of managers, the way they praise someone is they say, hey, Sally, thanks for that report for my 2 o'clock meeting. There are a lot of typos in it. And they say something nice, they immediately take it away with some criticism. And that's what people are left with, and I tell you what, Sally's not going to be around the next time you need that report, because she's going to take her break, or she's going to have quit because she's had it with you. And ideally you want to be proactive. Okay. You can't be reactive on this topic. You can't think of doing it when someone finally quits. I've been meaning to tell you, I quit one job early, my first job I had in my career. And my boss goes, hey, I've been meaning to give you a raise. I'm going, I hate to tell you, I already left in my head 6 months ago. I've just been looking for the opportunity. Now I'm gone. I don't need a raise here anymore. Too little, too late. So you got to be proactive. You got to lead the charge. And this is the job of management, Peter Drucker defined management as getting the work done through others. It's not being a super worker. It's not proving you're the smartest person in the room. It's being there for your people, helping them do the best work possible. Okay? Servant leadership, sometimes it's called. And it starts, and this is an integral topic, appreciating people to make that happen. So I saw what you did. I appreciate it. Here's why it's important. Give us a context that it ties to our goals this month, or the core value, or that strategic objective that we're all hands-on about. Here's why it has that value that I noticed. And if you really want to leave a mark, get to the level of feelings. Here's how it made me feel. Have an emotional charge. So every praising, even if it's only 10 seconds over the phone or in the hallway, it provides practical feedback that we all need to keep doing a good job, and it provides an emotional charge. Mark Twain once said, I could live for 2 weeks on a good compliment. I think it's even longer today because of how infrequently we get this in our fast-moving, now isolated world. It doesn't happen that much. Only 12% of employees say they feel recognized in a timely, meaningful way. In fact, 3 times as many, 34% say that they don't feel recognized on the things that the company does that are meant to make them feel special. They don't feel special going to the holiday party, or the that they had to drag their spouse to, or the summer picnic where the kids didn't want to go because they had their own agenda, that things they wanted to do. Don't assume. You can't legislate excitement. You can't legislate people and how they will feel. It has to be sincere, and that comes from doing things that you have first found out what's important to them, and they have taken those as a priority. 1-2 punch: practical feedback, emotional charge. And so on, when it comes to Employee Appreciation Day, and people say, well, all the things that people could do, and I got thousands of ideas in my books. What do you recommend, Dr. Bob? Well, if you just do one thing, take the time to personally thank each of your direct reports. Whoop, misspelled that. Direct reports on Employee Appreciation Day. So you can do that as a group. You can go around the group, or you can do it. I did it. I remember one year I did it in writing to each of my direct reports. And it took me. I did 16. It took me about 2 hours to handwritten note to each of them. And in that, as I thought about each of those employees, I thought about what I most valued about the job they did. And I gave examples over the last year in working with them of things they had done. And I gave it to those people, no big deal. I had 2 of them cry. They were so touched. No one had ever done that for them before. And they just thought the world of it and valued it. There's some powerful feelings that you tie into when you do this well. So cite specifics as to what they've achieved and what's made you proud, and tell them, be real with your own feelings. If you feel proud, if you feel excited, say that. Help to validate those feelings. And again, be sincere. Don't make it up. Don't do it artificially. Don't do it rotely. But if it's there, tell them what you feel about the honor of working with them and the excitement you have for their future and career with the company. Talk about the future and make them a part of it is a good way to get them to stick around. If you got millennials working for you, their average tenure is 18 months. From the get-go, from the first conversation, you should be talking beyond that time frame. If you do a good job in this position, and that's job number 1, you need to do a good job. But there's a lot of different directions you can go. A lot of places, a lot of career paths you can have in our operation. We're growing, and you can be part of that. And part of my job is to help you be ready for those opportunities. So we're in it together. I'm on your side. Boy, that's the manager everyone wants to work for. Everyone, someone that's looking out for you and your success. And my definition of engagement is merging of personal aspirations with company objectives. It's not just the company objectives and making this happen. You got to tie in the people, and that means you got to tie in personally as to what they want to achieve. So you can praise someone directly. You can praise them in front of someone else, has a different power. You can praise them when they're not around, different power yet. Kind of think of it as a positive gossip, that you sing someone's praises. Hey, I heard your boss was bragging about you in our management team meeting. Really? for some employees, that's when it's really real, that you're talking about the good things they've done to other people, even when you're not in front of them. And they'll hear back. They'll get the word, and they'll think more highly of you for it. Of course, give it to them face to face as well. so, uh, and that's a lot to say about a small thing, praising, but that's where it all starts. Now, there's a number of other non-cost behavioral things that you can do, not just for Employee Appreciation Day, but in your role as a leader. Direct, honest, two-way communication. Employees want this. 95% of employees say this is important to them. They want to hear it, what's going on from you, and so make that a priority. If they have a question, you don't have an answer, get it and get back to them. And through your actions, show that they matter. Ask for their employee input and ideas. In my research, 92% of employees find this to be a motivating behavior if they're asked for their input and ideas. Because what? That shows trust, it shows respect. And if they have a good idea, and they will, give them autonomy and authority to pursue that idea. I never thought of that idea. John, that's a great idea. Don't say, we tried that 2 years ago, it'll never work. Well, maybe it will work now because John's on it. He's got a new excitement, he's got a new vantage point. And so, let him take the next step, back him up. The worst comes to worst, it doesn't happen, no further off, no worse off, but you've shown him a trust and respect to honor his ideas, and maybe it will happen because he'll be more excited than anyone else has been about doing that, and he'll be more diligent, and he'll be more persuasive, and boy, let me tell you, I worked with a company in Connecticut where they did a thing called iPower, where they asked every employee to turn in 2 suggestions every week. I'm not talking about a suggestion box where people put in ideas and then no one ever even opens the box. I'm talking about an active program where they requested 2 ideas every week: how we can improve things, how we could save money, how we can better serve the customer, how we can streamline processes. Anything goes. And then they took a volunteer from the group and they changed it each week to go through those ideas. And they coached them. They said, no, we're trying to encourage ideas here. So your job is to, put some wind under the sail. And more times than not, they'd take the idea back to the person that suggested it, said, this is a wonderful idea. You should really do it. They gave it back to them. Let us know if we can help you with your idea. They got out of their way. Well, long story short, this company did this and they'd get thousands of ideas. They didn't implement all of them, but they implemented a lot of them. And doing this one thing and doing it very well led to a 5-fold increase in their revenues in a 3-year period of time. In fact, they told me, Bob, we used to have a revolving door turnover here in our organization. As soon as we'd lose someone and we had to hire someone, we'd lose 2 people, have to hire 2 or 3 people. And spent all this time trying to hire people. All of that stopped once we got this program up and running. Why would you leave? If you're given permission to pursue your interest in ideas and turn your job into the job you want, why would you leave? And people didn't. It was incredible. So don't overlook the simple things that can make a big difference. You want to involve people with decision making. 89% of employees say they want to be involved in decisions that are made where they work, especially if the decision affects them and the job they're doing, by the way. And isn't that just common sense to say, hey, this affects your area, I'd like to get your input on it. Now, as a manager, you can say, no, I've got to make the final decision. I am the boss and being paid for that. But I know it'll be a better decision if I get your input. Trust, respect. Okay, you're leading with that in your behavior, and it will be a better decision. And guess what? It'll be easier to implement because people were already on board. They had input on it. These are simple ideas. No cost. Okay. And if someone talking about their personal aspirations, where they're trying to get to in their career, their future, connect them with that. Be the touch point that helps them to have the ambition to go further, because we're going to find a spot for you in doing that if you learn those skills. I can't guarantee you'll be promoted, but I can guarantee you if you work for me, I'm going to do my best to help you to prepare you for the next job you want. And even if that's a job where you want to start your own company, you can learn things here that you can use in your own company. So it doesn't matter what, I'm not trying to trick you into staying longer. I'm trying to show you that I care about you and your future. And if I do that, it will better serve me and you getting the job I need you to do so I can look good. It's just, and by the way, I won't be able to be promoted unless I have someone that can step into my shoes. So I'm trying to, and a personal bias, I'm trying to get people ready to take my job so I can move on as well. So it's you can be upfront about all that, and it's very refreshing and it's very power invoking as well. And if someone makes a mistake, and people do make mistakes, in fact, if you aren't making mistakes, you're probably not pushing the curve hard enough. Okay, if someone makes a mistake, you could, you can criticize them, embarrass them in front of their peers, but what'd you gain from that? Nothing. You felt, your ego felt better for 2 minutes. Yeah, I knew you couldn't do it. Why don't you, instead, someone makes a mistake, why don't you take a deep breath, take a step back, and say, I'm not sure I would have done it the same way, but what'd you learn from that? That could be the most powerful learning that you've had all year. I'm glad you made that mistake, actually, because you'll never make that mistake again. No, I won't. Yes. Wow. Bill Gates, the former chairman at Microsoft, he said you can tell a lot about the long-term viability of any organization simply by looking at how they handle mistakes. If you criticize people openly and embarrass them, make fun of them, yeah, they won't make those mistakes anymore because they're going to quit, because they're not going to work for you anymore. You're a jerk. Because what good is embarrassing them in front of the team? No, you've got to honor the person. You got to think of the long term with each of the person that works for you, and do the right thing for the long term, not for the 2-minute gratification right now of you being the smartest person in the room. Stow that. So let's get some more nitty gritty here on specific ideas. And of course, the book you get's going to have a lot more ideas, and really all my books. I've done 31, and they all are one of my trademarks is to operate in real ideas, real examples from actual companies that are doing these things now. So a little bit on the overview, but a lot on the details. Here's what it looks like. Open the book anywhere and you'll find a usable idea. Maybe not every idea will work for you, but if you find one that doesn't, turn the page and the next one will. So what does it look like in the virtual workers? Well, you can have online meeting call outs. Even on a Zoom call, you can say, hey, I want to thank Jiansu for coming. We were up against the deadline, and she burned the midnight hours and came through for us. And then once again, you proved that your commitment to the team. Thank you so much. And we're gonna find a way to pay you back on that. But you really saved us on this one. You could do a simple call like that, and 10 seconds, and you've given them an important message. You can have electronic thank you cards. I mentioned, here's some examples. I know Bucket List has lots like this, and there's other ways as well. You can have a praise barrage, which is a simple activity I love. And I love this partly because you can do it in person, but you can also do it virtually. Next time you have a Zoom call, here's the team. And hey, before we get started, I'd like to just go around the group, and as I call someone's name, I'd like everyone else to share what they most value about working with that person. Let's start with Tony. How about Mary? And 5-10 minutes later, you've gone around the whole group. What has just happened? Everyone has gotten personal feedback about their contribution to the team that makes them feel good about themselves, but also binds them more tightly to that group of people, make it easier to achieve more as a group working together. Wow. Okay, and next time, maybe you're able to do it in person. Next time, do it with index cards. Give everyone a few index cards and jot down thank yous you owe other people on our team. Give people a couple minutes, exchange those cards. I tell you get 6 or 7 index cards with specific feedback about what you did well on something. You're going to do even more of that going forward. I really value Tony because he's so good at summarizing our points and a clear path going forward, or the fact that Mary will draw out the quiet person who has a lot to offer too, but often we're all talking on top of them. They never get a share, and they will get better at those things, and the team will get better as a result. Praise buddies and me pages are two techniques used by Hyatt Corporation that they shared with me. And praise buddy is like a secret Santa, but on the topic of recognition. I'm going to assign you this other person. They don't know I'm doing this, but I want you to specifically look at the work they're doing and call out when they've done a good job. And me pages is people talking about their own preferences and things they like. You know, they allow people to do that, and they share it among the team, so we all get to know each other a little bit better. You know, favorite foods, favorite movie, personal hobbies, all that stuff it's important to any one of us. As we share that among our team, then now we know each other better and we can act on that. In fact, Wyndham hotels, they do this thing where people join the organization and sign up with their benefits and whatnot. They have a page of preferences. You know, what's your favorite? Do you have any pets? What are their names? What's your favorite food? Your favorite flower? And that information sheet goes to their boss, wherever job they have, who can look at that and say, well, I'm gonna thank them. I'm gonna buy them not like violets. I'm gonna buy them some violets. What the heck? Or they garden. I'm gonna get them something for the garden. Thoughtful gift. Some companies do this where there's a central place where that's stored that people, and they remind employees to update their preference sheets, and then they remind managers to check the preference sheets when you want to thank someone. You know, it helped make the magic happen between those two groups. You can have applause electronic bulletin boards. Again, this is a feature that here's a bucket list platform that with the Royal Bank of Canada, where people can give personal public praises, and it's captured, it's shared, it's captured. You can actually have leaderboards on who's doing it best, and people have preferences on things that they're saving points for, if you use points or gift cards, whatever. There's a real power and richness to having a platform that gets your arm around all this. Simultaneous celebrations. We saw some of this during the pandemic in healthcare, where people in New York City would come out at 6 p.m. every evening and applaud healthcare workers. I don't know if we're still doing that. We should be still doing it because they're still doing the job. And let me tell you, they're beyond burnt out. So if you know a nurse or you know someone who works in healthcare, thank them for their service to our country during this crisis. Because we wouldn't have survived without them. But it could be like this, or it could be, you know, what are other ways that we can have, we can share applause, share a, you know, a popcorn lunch is the idea. Now, how do you do that popcorn lunch in a virtual environment where we're gonna have a popcorn celebration? But they're all located everywhere. Well, I'll show you what I did here this last year during the pandemic. I've got a bunch of virtual workers, and I got them each one of these things, and I can't even tell what it is. This is a microwave popcorn maker. I gave one of these to my neighbor. He said, "Best gift ever." And you can put this in the microwave. You put popcorn in there. Don't even need the oil. There's a button on the microwave just for popcorn. You press that. 30 seconds later, you got a bucket of popcorn. And now I gave this to all my virtual workers, and anytime we can have a popcorn celebration. Let's take a couple minutes, grate some popcorn. Let's talk about that last event we did, or whatever it might be. It's not that hard if you put your mind to it to come up with these things. This was literally $9 from Walmart. So we're not talking about things that are going to break the bank. We're just talking about thoughtful things, you know. And for those employees that are out of sight, out of mind, maybe keep a log on what you've done for them, how often you've checked with them. You know, when the pandemic started, there's actually, in the short term, there's a jump in employee engagement, because for a lot of employees, suddenly their boss was calling to check on them to see how it's going. Is there anything they need? And they felt special, and unfortunately that didn't hold up. But you got to keep track of your people, and especially the ones that aren't sitting next to you or aren't in the office. You got to make sure you can be more intentional when checking in with them to make sure their things are going well, or anything that they need to do the job you expect of them. So in a hybrid environment, you know, all this starts with identifying what people find is important to them to be recognized. don't just do it out of your own head, or if you get the book, pass the book around, have people initial ideas in the margin as to what they want, and then it could be more of a motivation guide for you. But it starts with asking the question, having the conversation. Do at least what you're doing for things for people in the office. Make sure you do at least the same things for people that are out in the field or working from home. So you got to think it through, and maybe even more for stuff for people that are out of sight, out of mind, because they already feel like they're isolated. They are isolated. They already feel like they're the last to hear, that they're not considered. Even if they're in a meeting, as we go back, people are coming back to work. There's gonna be a bunch of people in the room, in the conference room, and then a few people, I don't know, maybe half, maybe just a few that are virtual, and they're, it's very easy to forget about them in the conversation because you can't see them. And so you got to I know one company that they made little bobbleheads for the virtual employees, so they could have a presence on the conference table. So one less weight so we don't forget about them. So whatever it takes to make that top of mind. And then where possible, with the people that are working remotely, follow up with them face to face whenever you can, to keep them an active part of the team. I'll give you some more examples here. I worked with Hewlett Packard. They had the Golden Banana Award. This came about from a software technician burst in one day. A little story. A senior software technician burst into his manager's office. He said, "You won't believe it. I fixed the software bug. Been working on it for weeks." The manager, knowing the importance of a timely recognition, literally groped around his desk, hands the senior software engineer a banana from his lunch with the words, "Great job. I knew you could do it." And, didn't do much more than that. And I'm not sure that, your boss gave you a banana might seem kind of silly, but it wasn't silly to the senior software engineer. In fact, he showed everyone the banana the boss gave him and why. It took on a story of life of its own today in that division. Hewlett Packard, Sunnyvale, California, 17 years later, the most prestigious award for technical achievement is the Golden Banana Award. Not the same banana. They retired that puppy. They have a nice plaque. In fact, they it was working for them, so we find something that work with it to get more out of it. They created a lapel pin of a banana. They gave people that had received that honor, they could put it on their name tag. Now, at a glance, you could see someone was part of a performers club. And oh wow, what'd you do? And it drives an incredible amount of focus and attention on what happens to be the most expensive technical staff, the stupid banana. It's all over the map. What could work for you? Find out what your banana is for your team and work with that to get more out of it. At OPM, Office of Personal Management, I worked with them, 2.8 million employees. They had a pass round award that they would give to an award that they would give to people. They had a criteria for this, things you had to do right, but they gave this one woman, and she went to her boss the next day. She says, "I appreciate getting this award. It's very significant. I value it, but I didn't do this alone. If it's okay with you, I'd like to pass this award on to someone that helped me to make this happen." And her boss said, "Well, it's your award. You can do whatever you want with it." And she did, thereby starting this kind of pass around award that's very common for a lot of companies today, that why it's passed around, you could decide why. And I know some companies that allow people to put their name on it or decorate it. They pass it on to another group. You can have multiple pass around awards going around. It could be, and it could go to a virtual person. You could send it to their home and have the trophy on the desk until they decide to give it to someone else. So a lot of variations you can play on any of these themes. At Busch Gardens, they give supervisors tokens, and they ask them to catch people doing things right when they see one of their core values in practice. These are things like safety, teamwork, customer service. And so here's someone, supervisor sees an employee jump in to help carry boxes. And person wasn't even asked. They saw there was a need, they jumped in. That's teamwork. Thanks for jumping in there. Or here's a kid that he's making lemonade 1 cup at a time for people on a long line on a hot day. Yet, wouldn't you know, he's having fun with it. He's cracking jokes and they're loving it. And you have a gift, service with a smile. Here's a token for you. And what happens is, if you get one of those tokens, you can turn it into payroll and get an extra $20 in your next paycheck. they told me, Bob, no one ever turns the tokens in. Because what is that? It's a memento. That is you captured a moment in time, and it reminds them of that as they carry it with them. They show their kids, look what Dad got at work today, or they're out for lunch and they pull out change when the bill comes. Hey, you got one of those tokens. What'd you do to get that? Oh, I had a suggestion for how we could save money in my department. My boss agreed, gave me one of these. Really? I got a suggestion for how we could save money too. Well, maybe you should tell your boss. This is kind of a multiplier effect that recognition has when you do it well. At Aramark, the food service folks, they name days after employees. Xerox does this as well. And you can say, why you're doing that and why the person deserves it. And then on that day, have fun with it. Fun's part of recognition. So they have everyone lines up in the front lobby when someone comes to work. They have the boss pick them up and personally chauffeur them to work. They have the whole day of activities set up. They come into a standing ovation. They set up lunch with the president, and on and on. They never do the same thing twice. Some people that maybe they're more introverted, they wouldn't do any of that. They'd find out what interests they have and buy a gift for them, for fly fishing or whatever it might be, a thoughtful gift from the team. Cameo, this is a fun one. I'm actually doing this for Employee Appreciation Day. I've got a coworker, someone I really value and respect, and I just hired an Elvis impersonator. He's already he's giving him a personal message. I gave him the background, and this guy looks like Elvis, he sounds like Elvis, he sings like Elvis, and then he's talking about personal thanks for this employee, and then he's doing his favorite Elvis song. It's killer. Total cost $100. I couldn't believe it. I had to tip him. He did such a great job. And there's thousands of people on Cameo that will do this for you, and they have different levels of fame. You can get Snoop Dogg for $550, although you might be on pause since the Super Bowl. But you got athletes, you've got actors, you've got it's unbelievable. And you can tell them what you want. You call them on their birthday, or I'm more about performance, to call them when they did a good job. And it's just an incredible thing. I worked for Ken Blanchard for a decade, and I remember one year we got him an audio as kind of a cameo thing from a sportscaster. A guy who's a professional sportscaster, is a basketball sportscaster, and Ken used to play basketball when he was younger, and it was just fabulous. It was he had the sound effects. It's all audio, so sound effects of a game going on, and there's a buzzer. It looks like we're having a substitution. Yeah, on the floor now, Ken Blanchard. And the game continues, and we got a timeout. Let me fill in on that new addition there. Ken Blanchard, he hails from New Rochelle, New York. He's done this and that, and then we're back to the game, and going back and forth. It's heating up, and it's like down to the buzzer. So that's a Blanchard from half court. It's good. Ken must have listened to this audio 50 times. He loved it. He loved it. So again, a thoughtful gesture, very little money. Some of these are as cheap as $7. Okay, you got to check it out. You can do a team building experience, and all rapport comes from shared experiences. So if you want to have your team have greater rapport and work more tightly together as a team, create a shared experience for them. And that could be doing a group activity online. It could be, I know companies that will send everyone a pancake kit and make some pancakes and show us what you came up with, be creative. And here's one that looks like Mickey Mouse and whatnot, and how they decorate it and stuff. And then they share what they did. And again, it's a shared experience, and it's a little bit of time, a lot of fun, and it brings the team as one team, one unified team, regardless of where they're working. Okay, and the list goes on. Our time, however, does not. I see that we have run out here. Again, everyone that's on the call that provides their preferred mailing address will get a copy of my latest book, Work Made Fun Gets Done. We've got specifics on things that can make your own work more fun, things you can bring to your team to make it more fun, and as an organization, what things you might consider to make fun and recognition a part of the ongoing culture. And with that, Jason, I don't know if we had any questions come in, but maybe we have time to answer a few of those.
We certainly did. I have two small pieces of housekeeping that I want to get into. I want to give everybody their HRCI and SHRM credits, and also if people do want assistance with rewards and recognition, I want to give people a quick chance to learn more about bucket list rewards. So awesome. So yeah, if I'll just leave this slide up on screen for a moment. If you're looking for help with rewards and recognition, Bucket List is currently the #1 ranked platform for ease of use and customer satisfaction. We work with tech companies, healthcare organizations, hundreds of thousands of employees all over the world.
And when you say tech platform, just tell us quickly what that means.
Yeah, so you know, it's a mobile-friendly desktop software. You showed it earlier on. It kind of looks like Facebook or Instagram. It easily allows people to recognize one another, and there's even an option to reward as well. You don't have to use it. I'm a huge believer of recognition on its own, just like Dr. Bob. But with a name like Bucket List Rewards, we can reward people with everything from a $5 Amazon gift card all the way up to, we're really good at making dreams come true. So for example, in healthcare, giving an employee a half day off, sending them to the spa, like that's how you take care of an employee. But we're going to
or a hands-on team building where they go out in nature and you do some cool stuff there.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. So if you want to learn more about Bucket List Rewards, just go ahead and click yes. We'd be happy to send you either information, or we could even provide you with a bit of a demo. And as you say, Dr. Bob, we do have a really cool event section as well. So if you want to set up team building events, recognition events, all can be done through the platform very, very seamlessly. So I'll let this run just for a couple more seconds here, and then we'll wrap that up and get to the SHRM credits. Awesome.
Or any questions that popped up.
Absolutely. And then if you have the SHRM credit slide handy, you want to jump to that, and we'll go to Q&A as well.
I no longer have control.
If not,
that interrupted my my control on driving the slides. Oh, here we go. The questions. Well, here's SHRM credits.
Awesome. So they're up on screen. I'm going to read them out really quickly because I know some people have dialed in. For HRCI, the credit is 586969, and for SHRM, it is 223U9Q4. And let's get into some questions, and I'm going to kind of run through some great ones here. So first one from Eleanor, thank you very much. She says that people respond to recognition very differently. Some people like to be celebrated, and others would die of embarrassment if they're praised in front of others. Any tips to figuring out how people like to be recognized, and for the quiet people, how do you recognize them?
Yes, great question. This comes up a lot, and the best answer is don't guess, just ask them. You can ask them face to face individually. You can ask it as a team. Hey, if we make this goal, how would people like to be recognized? And you will find out very quickly. Well, this is how we like to celebrate, or we want to have a barbecue, and what do you want management there, or do you not want management there? And let them decide, and they'll be more on the mark. If you have a quiet, because someone's quiet doesn't mean they don't need to feel valued. We all need to feel valued. It just means that they don't want to do balloons and hugs. But to write them a sincere note of thanks, or to have your boss call them and thank them for the company, man, that would go a long way. And again, now I'm making an assumption about introverted people, but again, you got to ask them directly, what would you like? And if they dismiss that, because some people say, oh no, you have to do anything for me. Say, yeah, I want to do something for you though. And if you don't tell me what would be meaningful to you, I'm going to end up guessing. I'll probably get it wrong. So think about it and tell me what you would like, or give me some options at least. And more times than not, they'll come back and say, well, if you really want to do something, I love this restaurant, or and you can do those things. Or I've had people call someone's spouse and tell me more about what they're into when they're not at work, what hobbies they have, and then surprise them with a gift for that. like I said, I'm doing the Elvis impersonator for, now that person isn't introverted, but I know he loves Elvis, and so it's going to be a blowaway for him because it's a personalized thank you from Elvis, and I heard this is your favorite song, and he plays it, and man, and thank you very much. It's just going to be killer. So find out what people either pay attention or ask them directly. I had a salesperson that was doing a great job for me, and I travel a lot, so I'm not in the office very much, so I don't know the guy very well. But I asked his coworkers. I go, "You're with him all day. What can you tell me about him?" Well, Ames loves to play with little sports cars while he's on the phone. Little toy sports cars. I go, enough said. I called him up. Ames, write down this phone number. And call this number. I just rented you a Porsche for a week. He goes, "Oh, Bob, you didn't do that." And we hung up. 20 minutes later, he calls me back. "This is the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me in my life." So pay attention. And we made a big thing. We took a picture, made a screensaver out of it. He took a different woman out each night of the week. It was off the hook crazy. But ask, listen, pay attention. You'll find out.
Awesome. And I see two quick things. I see a bunch of people are signing off saying they have to bounce to their next meeting. So maybe we'll do one more question.
Okay.
Before I get to the final question, Dr. Bob, I was just reviewing the comments. People are loving it. Rachel says, "Thank you so much." Kelly Mitchell says, "Thank you. Great presentation. People love the tips and ideas." So Dr. Bob,
just a quick other thing I meant to mention on electronic type things. Like Jason and I have never met face to face. We've known each other for years, but we're connected on Strava, which is a free app. So I can tell you when Jason runs, and I can send him a kudos on Strava. And he does the same for me. I did a hike yesterday. I got a kudos from him. So, this doesn't have to be limited to the workplace. You can do something like that, or if you don't have Slack, or you can have give people Audible, where they can listen to the books on tape. So expand your thinking on how you connect with people. Go ahead, Jason.
I love it. Thank you so much. Sandra just wrote, "Are you getting the webinar recording?" 100%. Final question from Paula. She says, she asked, "Do you find the age of the person defines the recognition needs?"
Well, we can generalize. I can go on, for an hour about what millennials like, and they're more fun-loving, and they want more FaceTime, by the way, with their boss, et cetera, et cetera. And someone's, if they're older, they want less FaceTime with their boss. Trust me that I know how to do my job, so it's going to vary. I can give you buckets for how it varies by generation, but nothing's going to be going back to the person directly and saying, and getting to know people, even from the first conversation when they start. Take them out for lunch, or have a Zoom call, or fly them to wherever you're at when they start the job, because make an investment in the relationship, and find out, what's important to them, how they tick, what are their aspirations. Of all the places you could have worked, why did you choose to work here? Okay, and that will be a great start for a great relationship that will go for years if you do it right.
Outstanding. Well, why don't we move to start wrapping things up? As I said, Dr. Bob, amazing information. Always a treat doing a session with you, sir. So thank you so much.
Likewise.
For your time.